Well, now let's turn to Phil Edholm, who seems to be doing just about everything tonight, for his segment on NMRA local clubs and divisions. This is how I found an awful lot of help when I was trying to figure out how to build anything. And I hope that you can too. So Phil, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Well, thanks, Jim. Well, tonight I have an exciting guest, and Charles, I'd like to introduce Charles Goodrich. And Charles, why don't we start by having you talk a little bit about your background and region, et cetera.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Charles Goodrich. I'm the director of Division 3, also called the Trinity River Division of the Lone Star region, which is Texas and Louisiana, of the National Model Railroad Association. Division 3 covers the Dallas area. We have a Division 1 that covers the Fort Worth area. This is our seal for our thing. Our division meets on the third Saturday each month for fellowship, view of coming events, encouraging each other, and education. We normally have 30 to 40 members that participate in our meetings. One of the important things is we have our announcements where we bring up what's available. For instance, the latest DVD on weathering when it came out. And of course, we're promoting the National NMRA Convention to be held starting 1 year from tomorrow, actually, in Grapevine, Texas at the Gaylord Center, which is a fabulous place to have a convention. We also have our mentoring program. We have quite a few master model railroaders, and probably a good 2/3 of our group that regularly meet are well on their way to becoming master model railroaders also. So if there's any questions or anything that people have or need help on something, there's always somebody there that can help. We have a segment called Tips and Tricks. And what we do there is people bring up their ideas of what they've, some little trick that they've come up with to make their modeling faster or easier. And for instance, this is if you can't talk your dentist into giving you a dental probe, you can make your own with a wood dowel and a push pin just by crushing the push pin, taking the point out and sticking it in the end of your dowel. It makes a good instrument for applying decals. Another one was making trees using Foxtail Fern as an armature. When I bought my house, the Foxtail ferns were in my front flower bed, and I looked at that and I said, that has potential. And sure enough, every winter after the first real freeze that we have, the leaves fall off of this and the armature makes an excellent tree. We have our awards. This is primarily NMRA Achievement Awards. For instance, the Golden Spike Award, or a certificate toward earning your Master Model Railroader. There are 11 certificates that's available at the NMRA. It takes 7 of them to get your Master Model Railroader. Another segment we have is Show and Tell. This is where members bring their models or something they've seen. For instance, this picture was taken in Deep Ellum section of Dallas. Building was constructed in 1902 and the sign was painted shortly after that. It's sometimes before 1910 and that sign is still on that building just as you see it. People bring their models to show, like this laser cut load for a flat car, or the flat car on the right is a painted deck. This is one that I presented a short show and tell on how to do this using panel liner paints. The one on the left is a regular wooden deck that I was doing many flat cars with real wood. And then I found this new way and actually looks better than the real thing. Another one of our modelers created a circus parade on his layout. And last month, he brought several slides showing his circus parade. Then we have a Q&A forum. This is where a modeler or anybody in the group can ask any question about model railroading. And we probably have enough expertise at our meetings that we could answer the question on the spot. All you have to do is be willing to ask your question. Then the main event is our clinics. We've had some very interesting clinics lately. We've got a pretty good agenda coming up. Like this one, Jeff Palmer did one on roads. He covered everything from major highways down to just a dirt path across a field in a cattle ranch or something like that. Did a very good job with it. Another one we had was installing voltmeters and amp meters in a DCC circuit, how to do that. Jeff Reichel did a clinic last month on building modules. He's a master carpenter and he does a beautiful job. And he's actually built several layouts for people in the Dallas area. Our group is a member of the North Texas Council of Model Railroads. And our primary function is to put on the Plano Train Show twice a year, in the fall and in the spring. This year, in October 1st and 2nd, it's be held at the Plano Event Center in Plano, Texas. That's between here where I am in McKinney and Dallas. So that's really about it for what we do. I'll take any kind of questions or any comments that people might have.
So, Charles, how do you encourage people to take advantage of the mentoring that you offer?
Sometimes that's hard to do. People are afraid to ask their question. They're afraid they'll look stupid or something. But we really push hard to get them to come clean and ask their questions or ask for help. That's one of my problems personally. I'm building a huge layout, and I just have trouble asking people to help. And I need to get over that and get some people over here or I'll never finish it. I won't live long enough to finish this thing. My bribe for moving to Dallas was my wife let me build a 55 by 24 train run. And actually that's too small. I'm on low scale and that's too little for upscale.
That's true. So I guess one of the questions is, with all the online, video clinics and information, are you moving more to doing, physical hands-on things at your events to try to take advantage of being physically together, or is it still kind of more presentation level material?
Presently, it's more presentation because we meet at a church most of the time. And we have to leave it fairly clean when we get through because they're having services the next day. So it's really hard to paint or stain wood and that kind of thing and not mess something up. It's just very difficult. We do have some plans of meeting at one of our members' houses and building some flat cars from scratch. Dwayne Richardson is working on that, and Donna Orr, who's our Lone Star Region president now. She's offered her house to people to come over and do that.
Cool. So try to do it in a normal meeting, but have kind of a special event. That seems to be something that other divisions are doing as well. It looks like you've got a fairly active group of folks. How do you encourage people to volunteer and get involved versus just, being a member and occasionally showing up?
Well, that's a hard question.
There are no easy questions here on New Tracks. They're all hard.
I think that it's really hard, especially most of us are retired, or most of them are either retired or very close to it. And when they're retired, they think they're retired. They don't want to do anything. And I have the same thing in my Sunday school class, looking for people to help there. At our age group, it's just people don't like to volunteer. But we do have some very good people. I got this job. I was appointed it instead of being elected like usually, because the last person that was elected director, he didn't like all the people criticizing what he was doing and asking for other things. And he said, I don't want to do this. He left. And,
Either do what I want or I'll leave. So that's.
yeah, I almost tell them heck no too, and they call me to ask me to do it. And I got to thinking about it. When I moved to Dallas 9 years ago, I didn't know hardly anybody here. And I started going to the division meetings, and I've met so many really good friends and learned so much. I just couldn't turn it down. I said, well, I'll have to do it this one time. So we'll see where that goes.
So do you get a variance? I mean, you seem to have a meeting every month. Do you tend to get the same people coming to the meetings, or does it change a little bit? Are they always at the same location? Kind of wondering about how distributed your membership and active different parts of the membership are.
We have the same location every time. One time this summer, we had to go to another place, which we went to the Allen it's a reconstruction of the Cotton Belt Depot that they have there. Very well.
Yep.
One of the slides I showed that. It's mostly the same people, but our division covers from halfway between Fort Worth and Dallas all the way to the Louisiana line, which is 200 miles from here. So it's really hard.
Right.
And our friends over in the Fort Worth division have a combination Zoom and personal meeting, and that's been very successful for them. But they have somebody that really likes to put on that kind of show, and we haven't found anybody that wants to do that for our division yet. It'd be great if we could do it, but then you'd have to have an internet connection where we meet too that's reliable. That's a problem too.
Yeah, I think trying to do virtual and physical events together is a challenge in lots of dimensions, and keeping it good for everyone. So one of the things that, as we talked to divisions and talked about challenges that divisions folks face, generally in model railroading, we seem to have an accepted kind of thought process that there are probably 5 to 10 times as many model railroaders out there as there are NMRA members. And I'm curious, how do you go about recruiting and marketing to those non-NMRA members at, the Plano train show? What do you do to convince people that being part of the NMRA is something you should do and be involved in?
The Plano train show, we have a booth there to recruit. Last spring, we had 19 new members join at the Plano train show. We try to convince people when they go to the hobby shop and buy a locomotive or a car or something like that, the reason that it'll fit on your track is because of the NMRA standards.
Right.
If we didn't have that, you'd go down there and every brand would have a different gauge, a different type track and different drives or electrical systems, and it just wouldn't work. But the NMRA gave us the standards, and to keep developing those standards, we need to support the organization.
So I had a couple of questions in the chat. So how many modelers active modelers typically attend your meetings, and what percentage of your overall members?
We average since COVID, we've been averaging about 30. Before COVID, we were up at around 40. And probably a lot of people are still a little bit afraid to come and get with groups.
Yep.
But we have a total on our mailing list of 237 people. And of course, that's all of East Texas. That's
Right.
a big geographical area. And it's not practical for a lot of people to come this far for a meeting. But we want to encourage everybody that we can to come, and they'll get something out of it, even if it's just making a new friend.
So have you been doing virtual events also then, or as part of the division, or not?
We did during the COVID. We had all of our meetings virtual with Zoom.
Yep. Okay. So I guess one of the questions is, how do you engage new members and get them kind of onboarded into the division?
Well, we get them on our mailing list to start with, so they know how to get it, where to go and how to get it. And of course, when somebody shows up, we try to introduce ourselves and be as friendly as we can and get them involved with showing them what we can do and how we do things, and just being as friendly as we can and helpful as we can.
Cool. So I guess one last question kind of to close, what do you think are the unique learnings, and things that you've done in your division that you think other divisions could really take advantage of? Are there things that you think, wow, this is something we've done that's really unique?
Well, like the tips and tricks segment, the show and tell, I'm sure a lot of divisions do that. The clinics, we're always looking for good clinics. And one of the things that I feel that we're weak on is we haven't had the strongest, really new information type clinics that I would like to see us have. And we're searching diligently to get that.
Cool. Well, I don't know if there are any other questions from anyone else, but I'd like to, Charles, that was great info. Obviously fairly short, and started with a great overview of the division, which was good. So if there are no other questions, I think we'll probably wrap it up, and thank you. Any farther last comments from you? Charles, any final comments or?
Not really. I would strongly encourage everybody to get involved with model contest, the achievement program, because it makes you so much better of a modeler. I mean, when you're competing, you're trying to win something, you're going to do your very best. And I remember when I started out, I had one gentleman that every time I'd bring a model to the contest, he'd beat me. I'd get second, he'd get first. And one time I was determined that I was going to beat him. And I spent all this time making this real nice Rio Grande water tank. Took it to the convention. He didn't show up. So I was grossed out. But I did take it to national and got an award there for it.
Motivation through competition. That's
competition, great. Exactly right. That's what got my master model railroader too, because a friend of mine had got 2 certificates. And he invited me to lunch. He was achievement chairman for Division 7 over in Shreveport, where I lived at that time. And he invited me to lunch and was telling me about it and all. And well, I can do that. I can beat this guy. And I got involved, and 3 years later, I had my MMR. Gosh, I've been modeling for 50 years, so I have enough models stashed to win contests and things. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you much and appreciate it. And with that, we'll throw it back to Jim.
Well, thank you so much, Charles, for being here. And thank you, Phil, for really an interesting presentation. I really do thank you both.
Thank you.